All right, we are up and running. Hello everybody, and welcome to the stream. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. We are going to be picking up our PBR implementation from where we left it last night. And good news is I actually do have something up and running, so we'll be able to see that. I did figure out the issue. I figured it out about 2 minutes after I ended the stream last night. I finally found what I was looking for, so that is good. And so we will take a look at that tonight, as well as continue our image-based lighting, which is sort of what got us on that tangent to begin with. So, hey Tammin, welcome. Good to see you here. How are you doing tonight? Hope all is going well. So, just a quick couple of things for any of you that are new here. This is a stream where we basically are building a game engine from complete scratch in C using Vulkan as our initial backend. We've been doing the project for about 2 years now, and to date we've got quite a lot actually implemented and up and running. So pretty soon here we're going to wind up actually starting on a game implementation, which is kind of exciting. But the whole purpose of this stream, and initially the video series that it started off as, is to be an educational resource. So this is a way of building an engine. It's not necessarily the only way. Not always going to necessarily be the correct way, simply because sometimes when you're doing things to show people how stuff works, it's not going to be the most optimal and things like that. But we are going to go and change a lot of those things around. But just keep that in mind. Before I go too much further, I would like to just take a second and thank the supporters of the channel. And these are all the folks who have signed up over on Patreon or YouTube memberships. And the highest tier of subscription there is our partners, and they are AR Slia and Gobolis Inc. All the other supporters listed here are the other tiers of subscription over on Patreon and YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated. And I hope it goes without saying that I appreciate each and every one of you who are viewing it here on Twitch or over on YouTube. We're simulcasting right now, so we actually have both streams running at once. I'm keeping an eye on both chats. I appreciate you guys very much for being here, interacting with me, following along, etc. So thank you all for being here and keeping this project alive. So, with all that said, yes, we are actually starting a little bit late tonight. And we're probably not going to go all that long tonight either, because we had kind of a long stream last night. And so tonight, I'm going to kind of keep it a little bit shorter, I think. I ran into some technical difficulties trying to get the stream up and running earlier. So, yeah, hopefully we're all set going forward. All right. So last night we were running into an issue trying to get our cube maps working. And the whole issue that we were having was we were depending on aliasing of these descriptor sets working, and it was not working last night. And I finally did figure out why that wasn't working. It was something small and something kind of stupid. But nevertheless, I did figure out what it is. So I will walk through that with you guys real quick, as well as some of the other changes that I made, because I went ahead and got it working on terrains too, which wasn't actually a whole lot of change, right? So most of this stuff here isn't really relevant, but I will talk a little bit about what we did need to change to get all this stuff working. So, what we have here is we are making use of something called partial binding, right? And we needed to essentially activate this feature and use it within our descriptor sets. And that allows us to actually perform the aliasing that we needed to perform. So all we do is basically we set up this binding flag on the descriptor set, or the descriptor binding rather, that needs the aliasing. So in our case, that was the second one, right? So we don't set that on the first one, which is the UBO. We wanted it for the samplers, right? We technically could set it on this one if we wanted to, but I don't think there's going to be a need, so I'm not going to for right now. And so we set that up. We hook that we hook an extended info structure into our pnext chain for our layout info, and that is all we need to do on that side to get that to work. And over on the device side, there is a small change that we have to make, which is literally just requesting the feature, right? So we have this VK physical device descriptor indexing features. And again, we are setting the S type there. And then on that, we are setting the descriptor binding partially bound feature to true, meaning that we want that, right? Now I have a to-do here. We're not actually checking to see if we support that first. We probably should be doing that, but there isn't really a workaround that I have if it's not supported. So if it's not supported, we're kind of SOL in terms of how we're doing this, right? So for now, I'm not going to worry about that too much. It was made native as of Vulkan 1.2, so I'm also not going to worry about that too much. All right, and so that is basically all we needed to do to actually set this stuff up. And so the other change that I did was I also moved some of this stuff down when we're requesting device features. I moved all that stuff down to right above where we create the device, just so it's a little bit, all together there, grouped, right? So this looks like a lot more changes than we actually made, but it's not a huge deal. The other thing is there is this VK extended descriptor indexing extension that we could use, but I found out we didn't actually need it. But I'm leaving this here in case maybe a 1.2 implementation needs it. So I'll have to test this on the Mac as well to see if that needs that. And we can load that extension if we need to. But if we don't need to load it, why load it, right? So that is that. And that is literally all we had to do to get the aliasing working. Just that. So it's kind of a small thing. I'm glad we figured it out. But yeah, that was kind of annoying last night. Hey, Smudge, how's it going? Ooh, you got a watch streak. Nice. 7 stream streak. That's awesome. Appreciate that. And I see you got some points there, too. That's awesome. Diamon, good evening. Good evening to you as well. How are you doing tonight? Hope everything is going well. So, in case you missed it before, we did figure out our aliasing issue. I figured it out about 2 minutes after I shut the stream off last night. So, yes, I did get that sorted. So basically, we needed this this feature right here, this descriptor binding partially bound turned on. Right? We don't actually have to use partial binding, but this feature has to be on in order for us to do what we needed with the aliasing. So, yeah, classic for sure. Classic Vulkan, right? And it took me forever to actually find that. And speaking of which, so this was the Reddit post that I was talking about last night that initially gave me the idea, right? And it kind of went into this right here, kind of talked about how it's supposed to work, right? And so what I actually did, and you guys should get in the habit of this too, is I left a post here basically talking about my experience with this and what I had to do to actually get it to work, right? That way, if somebody else searches this and they run into the same thing and they get the same error, which I also put in here, that maybe they'll see that and be able to use it, right? And so I gave all the steps here of exactly what we need to do, right? So, with things like this, I try to make it a habit to update this, whether it's here on Stack Overflow or wherever, right? To say, hey, this is kind of similar to what I ran into, but if you have this problem or this specific version of the problem, here it is, right? Somebody will find it, I guarantee it, at some point. The other thing that I did was, let me get rid of this, is actually I put in a PR to fix that typo that I found in the validation layer. But some of their CI is being really annoying, so I've got to figure that out, right? Some of the formatting is being really annoying. So I have to figure that out, but there's going to be a fix for that too, right? Because arrayed had 3 R's in it. That was the arrayed. So I went ahead and put in a PR for that as well. Unfortunately, a lot of old Reddit posts are locked after some time. It's hard to contribute sometimes if it's an old post. Exactly. Yeah, in this case, it wasn't, thankfully. So I was able to actually add that on there. But yeah. Yep, that's definitely an issue sometimes. And so sometimes what I'll do in that case is I'll actually create a new post and then put a link to the old one in the hopes that maybe it'll show up, right? I'm from the pirate crew and complaining about RA. Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying last night was, yeah, maybe it was written by a pirate, right? Yeah, it's hysterical. But yeah, so that is all done. And so let me actually go in here and I'm going to build really quickly because I don't remember if... Actually, you know what? I'm going to quit out of this because I actually had some editing that I wound up doing in the other editor and I didn't refresh it here and I don't remember which ones it was. So I'll go ahead and build. Looks like there's just a version update, so I think we're good. All right. So if we run this now, we're going to see an interesting result. And this is the result I expected to see last night. But so I'll load this up. And you notice scene looks vastly different, right? You'll notice it's a lot lighter. But also you'll notice like this splotchy red stuff all over the place, right? Like it looks like a scene out of Elden Ring or something. And the reason for that is because the default cube map that we set up to use as the environment map as our test, if you recall, is red and white squares, right? It's a checkerboard pattern with red and white, right? And so just by seeing these all over the place, we know that that's working, right? And so like if we go in here to the Sponza and look at some of the shadowed areas, we can actually see it pretty clearly, right? And so we know that that's working, right? And so that's basically used for our sort of indirect diffuse lighting, right? So if we take a look at our shader, the changes that were made was obviously we got these in place. And then we come down here to the bottom, right where we're calculating the ambient and all that stuff. And we calculate, or we sample first off, the IBL cube map. And we're sampling that as a radiance because a radiance technically holds all the scene's indirect diffuse light, right? And so we take that and we combine the surface normal to sample from it. So we just use that normal that we already calculated before. And that gives us what we're looking for, right? And then we go ahead and we combine that in with our albedo and our ambient occlusion. And then we go ahead and do everything as we were doing before, right? So you can kind of see how this ties in, right? This, thankfully, is not too complicated. That being said, obviously the map that we have now is not the right one. And it's not correct for what a Radiance map should be. So what should an Radiance map look like? Let me see. Let me pull one up. Let's see. See if I can find an example, right? Yeah, here we go. This is an example of what an Radiance map looks like, right? So you basically would have a cube map of an environment, and then you would essentially convolute it to make it super blurry, right? Because you're really only interested in the lighting information there. You're not interested in all this detail, right? So what we're looking to achieve from this is to get approximate diffuse lighting from the scene, right? And so eventually what we're going to do is, instead of using a pre-calculated one like this, we're going to actually sample one from the environment in real time, every, I don't know, 30 frames or so, and generate one of these on the fly. But for now, we're just going to use a sort of pre-calculated one. That pre-calculated one is going to be the skybox, right? So that's the first thing. So we're going to use the same map as what the skybox is for right now. And in fact, I might even create an alternate version of that. But for right now, I'm just going to feed the skybox through it, and you can see how that affects the lighting, right? We'll start with that and go from there. All right. So I did that here. I should also point out that I made some changes also to the terrain shader. So I'll actually pull up the diff of that real quick. So the terrain shader, we activated this, right? And we basically just did 1 plus 5 times max terrain materials, right? So that's our array size. And then if we come down here, I moved the IBL down here to the bottom. And again, we just sample that once at the very end and tie it into our ambient calculation there. So that's all there is for the shader. The shader config, we just uncommented this guy, and we actually renamed this to IBL cube texture. I'm probably going to rename that again to something a little bit more descriptive, but we've got that. And then in the material system, we made a couple of small changes around terrains specifically. So let me see, where was that? This is the default PBR material. Let's see, this is just load material, I think. Yeah, that's load material. Okay, so one of the things that we did was in apply instance, we have the material shader, the PBR shader. So for the terrain shader, we go ahead and apply a Radiance Map, right? So we added that, just like we're doing in the PBR shader. And then for the, here we go, this is what I was looking for. So for the acquire terrain material, basically what we do is we have 5 maps per material for PBR right now. So we allocate enough slots for all materials, but then we also allocate 1 more for the Radiance Map. So we have all of our materials in that array, and then we have 1 more at the end for our Radiance Map. So we allocate that, so we basically just bump that up by 1. That carries all the way through all this code, and then at the very end, after we've gone through our materials and assigned all those maps, we assign 1 more for our irradiance, right? And so we create a texture map and then go ahead and assign that, right? And so we assign it to the last index, in this case, of that array. And then in this case, what we're doing is we're just getting the default cube texture. And so what we can do is we can swap that out later once we actually have a better map loaded up, right? And so that's probably what we're going to wind up building tonight is the ability to pull in another map besides just the default one. So there's that, and I think that's actually it, right? I believe that's actually all we had to do, aside from a few variable renames, some formatting. That's really it, right? There's not a whole heck of a lot that we had to do, right? Most of the work was already done. Texture system, I don't think anything changed here at all. So yeah, this is actually the complete set of changes, right? So I think what I'm actually going to do is, so that all of our changes that we do tonight are on a clean slate, right? So get commit, let's see, added Radiance Maps, cube maps to PBR and terrain shaders. Let's see, what does this also include? Also added default cube map. And yeah, PBR material system updates. Right. Oops, forgot to close that. All right. The other thing I should probably do really quickly is go to the changelog. So added in, what did we call that? Partial descriptor binding support in Vulkan backend to allow for uniform descriptor aliasing. And then we also modified material system to handle PBR properties. PBR materials are now required on terrains. Oops, terrains. Fong will not work. Period. Which actually kind of brings me up to another point of something I'm going to be doing that might be a little bit controversial, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it kind of makes sense. Let me finish this up and we'll talk about that. So, let's see, what else did we add? Oh, added default cube map, metallic roughness and AO textures to texture system. Added query to texture system to indicate if a given texture is one of the default textures. All right. So let me slam that in there too. So let's say updated changelog. All right, so all that stuff is pushed now to the PBR branch, so you guys can go ahead and grab that if you want. It is available at this point. So, one thing that I also quickly want to discuss. Since we have made these changes to the material system for terrains, and specifically in the shader, PBR materials are now required on terrains. Fong will not work. I think this is the direction I'm going to take the engine. I wasn't initially thinking about cutting out Fong materials, but the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes sense, right? We don't really need a ton of different lighting models per se, right? We really just need the one and then the ability to tweak the crap out of it, right? And so I think I'm basically going to be removing Fong as part of this 0.5x, right? I was just going to add PBR, but I think I'm also going to factor in the removal of Fong. And so PBR will become the default material type. And I think there'll probably be just default. I've got to pull some references that I found in code to UI material types. We've got to pull those out because that doesn't even exist anymore. There's just some dead code there. And then, let's see, what are the only other type is custom, I think, right? And so we'll leave that one. And we may have some other types of materials too, like water materials and stuff like that eventually. Ones that work differently from your standard PBR texture. All right, so with that, I think the next thing that we should probably talk about is how we're going to get the cube map over to the material system, right? Because we have our cube texture here. And basically what we're doing for right now, at least on the terrain, but kind of in other materials as well, is we are essentially just kind of using the default, right? Which is, it's not really what we want to be doing. That's fine when we're loading up, but we should be able to kind of say, hey, what is the cube map texture that we want to use? We don't necessarily have to swap out the texture map. So I think I'm probably going to leave the map in place because we're already kind of creating a map for all these different materials anyways. So I think that's fine to leave in place, but we should have the ability to set the actual texture. And so what makes sense to me is we should be able to actually have, as part of the material definition, in a Radiance Map setup, right? And the default behavior for that is going to be if we have a configured Radiance Map that is in the actual texture configuration, then we use that. If we don't, then we're actually going to pull from the whatever's in the scene, right? Whatever the scene tells us we should be using, and we'll use that. And then if we don't have that, then we fall back to this, right? And I think that's the way that we should probably go. And so I'm not going to worry about configurable cube maps for that for right now. That's kind of a thing that we can tack onto this later. But what I want to get working is the ability for the scene to actually tell the material manager, or the material itself rather, what texture to actually use. So I think the way to do that is to actually go to the material itself, and we can apply it here. So we have the material type, and so I guess we could just we could do it as a material property, but that would get weird because we have to like cold cast that stuff, right? And so I don't know that I want to do it that way, because pretty much most materials are going to require this. And so let me think about this. So there's a couple ways we could do it. We could say, hey, material manager, just use this texture for everything. Or we could set it on each individual material, right? And so I think setting it on every material is kind of a mistake. At least, yeah, I think that's going to be probably a mistake, because then we're going to have to like loop through and set that constantly, right? Which is not ideal. The only problem is if we have one that's set by the material manager to actually use. Oh wait, no. I know exactly how we'll do it. Right, so we're going to have one here on the material that can be set explicitly. And if that one's set, we'll use it. And then we'll make some changes in the material manager. But first, I think we're going to have ads here in a second. So let me see. So we're going to take a texture pointer and a radiance texture. And so if that exists, we'll use it. And explicitly set radiance texture for this material. should only be set in limited circumstances. Ideally, a scene should set it through Material Manager. All right, and we have ads. So we're just going to pause the stream for a minute. And so for those of you who are new to the stream, we like to pause the stream whenever ads come up. So that way nobody misses content, right? So I know ads are a little bit different for you guys over there on the YouTube side, but we do like to break for ads whenever they show up on the Twitch side so that nobody misses content, right? And so generally ad breaks are about 1.5 minutes, sometimes 2 minutes. And, you know, so it's not very long to break the stream. And it gives me a minute anyways to, you know, drink some water or something. All right. So we got about 20 seconds left and we can continue. From Lake, welcome to the stream. If you can hear me over there on the YouTube side. Good to see you. All right. We are back. So, what we were doing here is I just basically added a texture pointer to the material itself. So if we want, we can explicitly set an irradiance texture to be used for that material if we want to. So the behavior here is going to be when it comes time to bind all of these textures, we're going to look to see if this exists first. If it does, we're going to use it. If it does not, then we're going to say, okay, use the one that's currently assigned to the material manager. So that's what we're going to set up now. And then if neither one of those things are true, then we're going to fall back to the default cube texture, right? And so that's going to be probably the easiest way to actually handle this. All right. So what we can do, let's go to material. Really? Why is it not finding my file? Why is it not? What folder did I actually open up Vim in? Yeah, I'm in the right folder. Why is it not loading up my... Am I missing something here? Yeah, I am missing something. It's not it's not material manager, it's material system. I don't know why I was thinking manager. It's probably my work code base actually, because that has managers. All right, so material system. Let me get rid of this other pane, we don't need it. So what we need is a way to actually store off a current map to use, or a current texture to use. So we have this apply global, apply instance, apply local. So this is probably where we're going to want to set it, somewhere around here. Typically it's going to be, I mean, technically it could be at any of these scopes, right? So let's go ahead and put it here. And we're going to call that, we're going to do void return type, material system. Let's say radiance set. And this is basically just going to take a texture pointer. A radiance cube texture, right? Just so it's explicit exactly what it should be. All right, so sets the current, actually, let's see, sets the provided cube map texture to be used for future binding draw calls until changed. And then we'll do param radiance cube texture, a pointer to the radiance cube map texture to be used. Must be a cube map texture, or this function will fail. Which means I probably should have something to indicate failure. So I'm going to change this to a B8. True on success, otherwise false. Right, because if the texture that we pass here is not a cube map, that's an issue. Which means internally we'll just go ahead and fall back to the default one, right? Note. Let's do this brief. Let's actually move this up a line, and we'll say provided texture must be a cube map texture or this function will fail. And then for the parameter, we'll say if null, system falls back on default cube map texture. I think that makes sense. You can hear, I can hear you. Fun to be here live for once. Awesome. Glad to see you here. I know we are trading comments on YouTube all the time from Lake, so it's good to see you. All right. So, that should do it for that. Do we need to forward declare? No, we have resource types here. We should be fine. Okay. So, let's take this. And we'll go to system C and apply local. We'll put it right after this. Right. So technically a null pointer being passed here is a valid operation, right? We can technically do that. So think what we should do is, obviously we do want to check for this, right? So we'll have to say if Radiance cube texture, right? And then return true if we get all the way to the end. And here we'll say if a Radiance cube texture type is not equal to texture type cube, return false, right? That's the only way we can actually fail. Which actually means I should probably move this guy down here, right? So we'll do a k warn, and in this case we'll say material system radiance set requires parameter radiance cube texture to be a cube map type texture. Nothing was done, right? So we're just not going to do anything. We're just going to boot out at that point. And then otherwise, we need to set that, but we don't actually have anything to set. So that's kind of an important thing. So let's go to our material system state. And let's do a texture pointer. And we'll say a radiance texture. Radiance cube texture, I guess. Fine. The current radiance cube map texture to be used, right? And what we'll do is when we initialize this system, after we do all this poop here, create our default materials and all that stuff. I guess we'll do this towards the bottom. Grab the default cube map texture as the radiance texture, right? So we'll say texture system get default cube map or cube texture, right? And we'll say state pointer radiance cube texture equals that, right? So that way we've always got that fallback, right? And now we can go back to, why did it take me all the way there? Here's what we want. Okay, so if we don't have an irradiance texture, right, we're setting it to null. That basically means that we want to fall back. So we're going to say state pointer radiance cube texture equals texture system get default cube texture, right? So null sets us back to default state, right? And so an example of when we want to do that would be when we unload a scene, or when we destroy a probe or something like that, right? That's when we'd want to do that. Okay, let's see. Sleepy Mushroom. I have a question if you don't mind. Could I use code blocks to create OpenGL programs? Absolutely, if you want to. Or to learn OpenGL. I tried to download the library, like, I assume you mean GLFW, in the Glad library, but I had such a bad time working with it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, code blocks is nothing really more than an editor, right? Just like Vim is an editor, or Visual Studio Code is an editor, right? It doesn't really matter what editor you use. What matters is the configuration that you set up to actually compile and link all your libraries and your dependencies, right? And so I haven't used code blocks in, I think the last time I opened code blocks was maybe in 2004, so it's literally been almost 20 years since I've touched it. But from what I remember, I don't think their configuration was too crazy. I don't know, like I said, it's been 20 years though, so it could be absolutely insane. But I doubt it's anything like Visual Studio, right? So I can't offer any guidance as far as to how to configure that on code blocks because I don't know. I would suggest maybe you start with maybe this guy, right? Just because there is a lot more information out there on how to actually set it up, right? I'm sure there's a lot of information out there on code blocks. The problem is like, what issues are you having, right? It's kind of hard to give like a blanket answer to that. It's kind of specific to the problems you're having in the setup that you have. But I mean, yes, you absolutely can. You can use any editor to do that. I mean, if you wanted to edit the thing with freaking Notepad, you could do that, right? It's pretty cool IDE. It's very intuitive for me. Yeah, I know a lot of people do use it. I just haven't in a long time. I've been using GLFW for a while, following the Game Engine series. It works fine with me with the exception of you need to set all of the keys to GLFW key counterparts. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, because you're using GLFW as your platform layer, essentially. Yeah. So where I have... where I have under platform these different layers for each backend, yours essentially would be a platform GLFW, essentially. Just failed to build a lot. Yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that you're linking with it properly, right? So you'll have to do like -L GLFW, I assume, in your linker. And then for your build, you'll obviously need to include the directory where all of your header files for GLFW are. And that should work. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Right? Like if we look at our one of our make files, right? All we're doing here is we have include flags, right? And then, you know, I guess this is probably not the best example because it doesn't have like all of the link flags, but like you might have to do something like that, or maybe it's lib. I'm not sure. One or the other, depending on what your platform is and whatnot. I hope that helps. It's kind of a nebulous question because I don't have access to, you know, the whole repository, so I can't really tell you. Okay, so in this case, we're not going to do anything. If we don't have an irradiance texture, we're going to use the default, which is still a valid operation. We'll turn true. Otherwise, we're going to do this. Right, we're just going to set it as is. And that's all we should really need to do as far as that goes, right? So basically, wherever we're drawing from, like whether it's the scene or whatnot, or maybe we even do this in our... maybe we do this in a render graph pass. That's probably going to be the best place to do it. We can actually set it there, right? In fact, that's probably exactly what I'm going to do. Because we're only going to have one probe initially, right? All right, so we've got that. The other thing that we need to get is where we're actually assigning the cube texture. Right, so this is load material, so we don't need to do it there. We're okay using the default here. We're okay using defaults for that. Create IBL cube texture. It's probably what I should be searching for. So here we go. So where we're actually applying this, right? So this is actually where we can inject that, right? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to override what's within the map. So in this case, instead of like I probably ought to get rid of these magic numbers too. I wasn't really going to do that, but I really probably should. Thankfully, our shader code already has kind of some of this stuff set up for us. So PBR frag. We want these guys. Right, so let's go to the top here. And right after this, we'll set these up. Right. Right, that way we can actually use these indices, right? So let me get rid of this guy. So we'll say samp albedo, samp normal, samp metallic, samp roughness, samp AO, and for this one, samp IBL cube, right? And the advantage to doing that is now I can grab this, put that there, and then say texture equals state pointer radiance cube texture, right? And that way if the index of this ever changes, I don't have to worry about it. Similar to GLFW, you could probably use SDL too. Yeah, SDL is pretty solid as well. I actually have another project that I've been working on for a while on the side of the side project that uses SDL. It's a pretty solid library, honestly. It's very easy to get something up and going quickly. Weird Trash Can, hello. I think it was you that came in at the last minute last night as I was shutting down the stream. So welcome. Glad you were able to make it in before I shut down tonight. I'm not shutting down now. Don't worry about that. Hope you're doing well. So basically what we're working through now is basically like a globally defined Radiance Map. Yeah, it was you. Okay, I thought it was. And so we're basically going to have the ability to set that in the material system, and then the material system will be responsible for using it as we render things. So Radiance Map. Right. I didn't think you would stream for 4 hours. Neither did I. I ran way over yesterday. I did not intend to stream that long. And I was really tired when I got up this morning. That's why I didn't start quite as early tonight. And I'm not going to go that late tonight, for sure. Okay, so I'm going to do this and then come down here to our terrain and do our Radiance Map here. And so this is going to be our index. So we need this. And we'll go ahead and use that. We don't actually need this, right? So we set up the Radiance cube texture that's been assigned for that. Now, something I just thought of, though, is we actually need to check the material itself for that property, right? So we didn't do that. We need to. And so we'll say for here, we're going to use a ternary for this, I think makes the most sense. So we'll say M, a radiance texture. If we use that, we're going to use M radiance texture. Otherwise, we'll fall back to cube texture, or the radiance cube texture, right? So that's kind of our fallback system there. Our radiance cube texture will never be unassigned, right? Based off of how we've built it. So m dot radiance texture, use M radiance texture. Otherwise, use the globally defined one. Said you're working on PBR. I'm breaking my head trying to learn it. Yeah. So yes, we are doing PBR. In fact, we already have a lot of it in place. There are some things that we're going to be adding, but for the most part, it's just going to be adding to stuff. We've got the most of the main system in place already. So I think at this point, so basically our cube map, it should still work as is for right now. I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't. It should still technically give us the same result if we build and run now. So actually, I'm going to do that real quick just as a sanity check to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm not sure why it's rebuilding everything. What did I change? All right, so let's go ahead and run. And we should kind of get the red splattery look because of the default texture that we're using. Yeah, so that still works. Okay. All right, so now let's actually get around to using a cube map that kind of makes sense, right? So I'm going to go to our scene pass, and we already have a material system reference. Perfect. And so our scene pass, when we are doing the, let's see, probably the execute, I'm thinking, is when we should do this. So here's the terrain and then the static geometries. And then debug geometries. Okay. So I think probably the place that makes the most sense to do that is we're going to have to extract that data in the prepare. Because we're not going to have the scene here to do this, I don't think. This is basically just our flat list of stuff. Yeah, I don't think we actually have the scene here, unfortunately. EXT data. We probably should have the scene here. Nope. We just have shader information. Okay, so that's going to be the first order of business. Actually, the first order of business is ads. So, for those of you who are new to the stream or just coming in, we like to break the stream for ads. It's usually 1.5 to 2 minutes. Your ad length may vary depending on what locale you're in. So, some people get served the full 2 minutes. Some people don't get served any ads at all. Some people get served 30 seconds of ads. It just depends on where you are and what ads are available to fill that slot. So basically, we like to pause the stream while ads are running so that nobody misses anything. I know over on the YouTube side, it's a little bit different for you guys over on that side. But on the Twitch side, there are scheduled ads that run, right? So eventually, I will get them synced up, hopefully. But now I kind of have to manage it manually, right? So we've got about 15 seconds, and then we can continue. All right. And we are back. All right, I have a couple things to catch up on here. So, Gugino, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for the follow. And also Naxnier, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. I hope everything is well. From Lake, I want to watch more, but I should stop. Looking great. Cheers to you and everyone. All right, have a good one. It's good to have you here. Like I said, we're not going to be running all that late tonight. So, you're... All of this obviously will be available on YouTube afterwards, so enjoy. Okay. Oh, Sleepy Mushroom, you're over on this side too. Okay, well, welcome. You were asking what is SDL2? So SDL2 is version 2 of SDL, which is the simple direct media layer. And it is it's basically a windowing / input system, and it gives you some very basic 2D things, but you can also use it with OpenGL and Vulkan and make your own renderer out of it, right? So it's just kind of a library that handles a lot of the platform stuff for you. Does C count as a discussion of religion? Yes, but no. I'm okay with it being its own kind of religion, I suppose, right? I certainly follow it. Certainly nothing that's bannable. All right. But that's a... And DMR is its profit. DMR is its profit. I can't think of what DMR stands for. Sometimes I want to make something in C instead of C++. Do it. I highly encourage it. Oh, Dennis Ritchie. Yep, okay. Yeah. I'm not used to the DMR. Like, I always forget what his middle name is, but yeah, Dennis Ritchie. I'm very familiar with him, of course, yes. DMR was his Unix username. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't follow him quite that closely, but yeah. Definitely definitely a profit, yes. Arguably its sole profit. All right. So we need to actually get the scene, or actually, more aptly, we really just need to add to extended data the Radiance texture, right? So let's do that. let's see, we have math types. Okay, so we're going to need to forward declare this. Struct texture. And then we'll do struct texture radiance texture. Guess I should say radiance cube texture, right? And so from here, I will simply say material system radiance set ext data radiance cube texture. And I suppose if we fail to set that, failed to set radiance texture, check the properties of said texture. All right. We're not going to cause that to fail the pass because the material system does have a backup, so there's no reason to do that, but we are going to scream about it if that's wrong. Am I using Emacs? No, I am using NeoVim. Yeah. I don't know, I just couldn't get used to the Neo or the Emacs rather keyboard shortcuts, right? I've just been using Vim enough. I don't know. I couldn't switch. I couldn't wrap my head around it. And Vim users unite. Yes. Yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of it, honestly, because being able to configure it with Lua is nice. Because it's a heck of a lot more consistent than Vim script, in my opinion. Have I tried out Helix? No, I have not. I don't know much about it, honestly. Lua has definitely been a game changer. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic for that, right? SL Technology, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. Yeah, I mean, Lua is it makes it really easy to configure stuff. Absolutely. And some of the plugins that are coming out for this are just absolutely insane. RDJ07, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. Notorious No Pointer, I did see that you followed yesterday. Welcome. Thank you for the follow, and welcome as first-time chat. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. How are you doing tonight? All right, so we have this. So we need to actually go over to testbed main now. And to prepare frame. And actually, this is another thing that we need to address too, is the skybox pass probably can be compressed into our scene pass, right? There's really no reason to have that separate anymore. Let's see. All right, scene pass. So all we should really have to do, we have extended data. We're not going to need this ambient color anymore, I don't think. In fact, I know we're not going to need it. So I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need that anymore. We have image-based lighting now, so we don't need that. So I can get rid of that, and then ext data, or radiance cube texture is going to be, let's see, state.main scene SB for our skybox. And then we want cube map texture, right? So this is going to be a hack. Use the skybox cube map as the radiance texture for now. we're going to have a different one, right? But this is the first step to us actually bringing that over from the scene. We're going to have a probe that's going to use a different map that we're going to use, but we're still going to be able to extract that from the scene. So we just want to hook this up for now to use that to make sure that that works the way that we think it does. And then scene pass. We should now have an error in here. So material system apply global does expect an ambient color. So we need to actually remove that. Not bad, trying to improve my Windows dev environment. Used to mostly work in Linux. So I actually prefer Linux over Windows. The only reason that I've had to switch back to Windows, unfortunately, is because of display driver issues. So I was basically, my display driver kept crapping out on Linux, which of course is really bad if you're streaming, right? So yeah, I had to switch back to Windows, which is really deeply disappointing because I do prefer it. Let's see. Over on the YouTube side, I stay away from Emacs because it's like an operating system programmed in Lisp. Yeah, that is a good reason to stay away from it too. John Grissom, hello. I was waiting for the answer on the IDE name and had a coughing attack and missed it. What was the name again? Also, I'm new here. So if you're talking about this IDE, this is NeoVim. If that was... Yeah, NeoVim. Yep. Hope you're feeling better. I understand the coughing attack thing. I get that every once in a while myself, so hopefully it's not too bad there. WesTerm, yes, that is the terminal I'm using. It's awesome. Yeah, that's the terminal I'm using. I did try to set up my Emacs and Windows environment, but the EOD, it just feels hackish, and some of the stuff doesn't work there. I ended up dual booting Fedora. So I'm actually triple booting at the moment. Basie, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome to the stream. So I'm actually triple booting on this machine. So I have Windows, and then I have Ubuntu, which is the LTS for, I think it's 2210. And then I also have Arch that I use as well. So I'm, by the way, I should say. So yeah, I'm triple booting at the moment. I looked at Helix and Kakune. I get where they're going with the noun verb thing, but I don't know that I want it that bad enough to switch. Fair. I use WesTerm everywhere I can. Yeah, I use it here and on my work setup. It's cross-platform, so it's an excellent terminal emulator. I really, really like it. Configuring it's really great, too. Weird Trash Can, thank you for the Tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Been working on Windows for a year, and it's not as productive as I was on Linux. Yeah, there's constantly stuff I'm flubbing, right? I'm just got so used to working in everything in the terminal, right? No more ads, exactly. Do you have your nvim config sitting anywhere? Yes, I do, actually. It's slightly out of date. I actually need to update it, but I do have that. WesTerm is cool. Have you guys tried Tabby? I've not tried Tabby. No. Is that one GPU accelerated by chance? Because I know WesTerm is, and it's super fast as a result. John Grissom, thank you for the supporter over on YouTube. I appreciate that. Welcome to YouTube memberships. I really appreciate the support there. Thank you. Let's see. Thank you. Fighting a 5-day fever. I hope it will be over tomorrow. Oof, man, that's nasty. I know that went around where I am a couple months ago, and it was pretty nasty back then. How much of your NeoVim config would you say is compatible with Vim? None of it, unfortunately, because it's all completely written in Lua. Yeah, I switched to NeoVim a while ago, mostly because of Lua in the config, right? Let me actually... let me do something real quick. I gotta find it. Do I have it here? I think I do, yes. So this is my config, right? And obviously I'm not going to step through this because there's, if you watch this indicator here, it's freaking huge, right? It's like 700 lines, right? But yeah, this is not going to work with regular Vim because it's all Lua, right? But so the difference between this and the one I linked is I moved everything to one file. So that's the biggest difference. But then there's some minor changes to like some of the commands and stuff that I have. But it's mostly just key bindings and things like that. So I'd rather use Manjaro than Arch. That's fair enough. I've not actually used Manjaro, right? I just kind of figured I tried Arch and just kind of stuck with it. Vulkan versus other graphics APIs. Do you mean like as a comparison or which one I like better? What do you mean by that, next year? Arch for about a decade now. Probably could switch if I wanted to. Yeah, I've been on Arch for 2 years now. I switched from Ubuntu to Arch. And I kind of never looked back. I haven't actually booted into my Ubuntu for quite a while. I just keep that around for like testing stuff. That's a very large config. Yeah, it is, but also like I have a lot of comments in here as well, right? So what other graphics APIs? What do you mean? Any way you'd like to take the question is okay. Okay. So I've done some work in DirectX 9 back in the day. I messed around with 10 and 11, but nothing ever serious with that, so I can't really speak on those. I thought DirectX 9 was actually pretty decent. I liked the API of DirectX 11. I can't speak on 12 because I haven't actually tried it yet. My understanding is that 12 is very close to Vulkan. I've also done a lot of renderers using OpenGL and WebGL. So I've done a lot of work around both of those. And that's probably the majority of my experience at this point, is probably writing renderers on that. But then also, I have been working on this project now for over 2 years, which is the largest project that I've written to date, at least on my own, right? I've worked on larger commercial engines before, but in terms of like homegrown engines, this is definitely the biggest one that I've made so far. And so I would say that my experience with Vulkan is quickly catching up to OpenGL, and I like Vulkan most days, but there are times when I really don't like it. Like what I ran into the other day where I had to enable an extension to actually get descriptor aliasing to work. That was really annoying. But yeah, I like Vulkan a lot. It's definitely got its issues, but I do like it a lot. It's a lot better, I think, than OpenGL in the sense that I really have an understanding of the way things work under the hood. And through that, I've actually learned a lot more about it. Descriptors are hell, yeah. But I mean, once you figure them out, you've kind of got them, right? Like, with the exception of the one property that I had to add to descriptors, I haven't touched them in probably a year. Once you have a system built around it that manages it for you, you don't really ever have to touch it again. So next year, I hope that covers your question. Let's see. Manjaro is based on Arch, yep, but with a focus on stability. Maybe I should try that out, right? because of my graphics driver issue. I just don't like having my stream die halfway through, because then I have to like combine the videos, and that's really annoying. Of course, I guess I don't really have to do that anymore. It just shows up as a separate stream on YouTube, but at least I feel more comfortable with descriptors in DirectX 12. I can't speak to that, right? So we are going to be writing a DirectX 12 backend. So when we get to that point, I've deliberately not looked into it at all, because I actually want to learn how to use it on stream when we go to do that, and basically re-implement everything that we're doing in Vulkan in DirectX 12. So that's kind of the goal there. Let's see. I was referring to when the other person asked about a comparison of graphics APIs. Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right. So I've answered that one then. Cool. All right. Manjaro isn't really more stable. They just delay releases of packages. So, see, that's something that really hasn't impacted me too much on Arch. I think I've broken my Arch installation twice in 2 years. Nivlak, welcome. Finally caught a stream. Yes, you did. Welcome. Just for an FYI, my brother streams games using Manjaro and would not go back to Windows. Yeah, I mean, I much prefer working on Linux. I had to get away from it because I had 3 streams where, the graphics card basically died. And then, it took OBS in the stream with it. So I'm going to try this for a while. I'll switch back to Linux at some point. But now I've got a whole bunch of setup here that I don't have on Linux, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge too. I might wind up doing some sort of a VM setup or something. NVIDIA binary driver, yep. I've not had any luck with the other ones. But maybe that's also the problem, right? All right. So, I think we have everything set up now to actually use the correct Radiance texture. So I'm going to do a build real quick and see. I'm just going to run this. Kringer's flossed and see what we get. Oh, right. The ambient color thing. Right. We are removing ambient color because we don't need that crap anymore. So, remove that. Eventually I need to change this over to be a struct probably, but render mode, view position, okay. That should be fine. So material system C. Let's go ahead and get rid of ambient color. And then the only thing that was using that is our Fong shader. So I'm actually going to get rid of that completely. So ambient color goes from there. From there. Right. So we get rid of that. That. Right, okay, so that's all those. Let's see, the material shader config. We're going to be nuking this in a bit, so I'm not actually too worried about it. Let's see, let me catch up on stream here. Yes, but by delaying the release, they can make sure it's more stable. Yep, that's what Ubuntu does, right? Bleeding edge is often an issue with Arch, and people have more issues with Arch than Manjaro. But again, like, I've not had too many issues with Arch with that. When I was using Manjaro, I was seriously thinking of buying a cheap AMD graphics card. Yeah. I'm going to have to eventually. Have you heard about the new NVK Open NVIDIA driver? They just reached Vulkan 1.0 conformity. Interesting. Okay. I've not heard of that, actually, but that's pretty interesting. I wouldn't be able to use it because I rely on at least Vulkan 1.2 here. AMD graphics drivers on Linux are pretty crappy lately, at least that's what I've read. In my opinion, they've always been kind of crappy, even back to the ATI days. Their hardware has always been a lot better, but the software isn't really there to back it up. At least that's always been kind of my take on it. Using Wayland on NVIDIA is pretty bad. Yes, it is. I have about 9 desktop environments, actually, on my Arch install, which probably doesn't help matters. All right. So, there's that. We also have the terrain shader config, which also has ambient color. So we want to get rid of that. Well, this is going to wind up being a bigger change than I anticipated. But we need to remove it anyway. In fact, this is all the places we have to remove it from. Right, so let's remove it from this shader and this shader. Okay, so scene pass has some places to remove it. We can remove that comment. We can get rid of that and that. There's another one here. This is for terrains, okay? So we don't need it there either. Let's see, renderer types. So the render view packet. Oh, render view packet. Did we not strip that out? Why is that type even here? Views deprecated. Oh, that's why I left it, so that stuff would build. Okay. All right, I'll leave it here for now. I do need to switch those old views over to render graph passes at some point. What's currently being worked on? So I am in the process of taking our cube map from our skybox and basically using that as an Radiance map for right now. And then we're going to be building a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? A probe that sits in the middle of the scene or somewhere in the scene that gathers that dynamically. And that's for all of our sort of ambient lighting in the scene, if you will. Hey, do you know any algorithm techniques like brute force, divide and conquer, etc.? I mean, I've used those things throughout the past. Let's see. Also, they were refusing Wayland since a few months back when they started to implement it properly in their latest drivers. Or it might be a work in progress, I'm not sure. Progress is better than... Wait. Hum progress is better than progress, I suppose. So yeah, it's baked right now, but it's going to be real time eventually. So we have ads. So while we're on ad break, I'm just kind of continuing to remove ambient color from things. So one more here. We are back from our ad break. Ads are dead. All right, so got all these properties around here that just weren't being used anywhere. So yeah, real time or baked. It's going to be baked initially, and then we're going to do real time. Scary Hutman, going to go sleep now. We'll keep the stream open for support. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Are there any plans for VR in the engine? Maybe at some point as a plugin. Yeah, I could see us doing that. Have fun. All right. Yeah, have a good one, Scary Hutman. I appreciate it. Let's see. Over on the YouTube side. Does Kohi support shader hot reloading right now? Not at the moment, no. That is something that I want to get in kind of soonish, though, because that would be nice to have. Nice watching. Gotta go. All right, John. Thank you. Thank you again for the support, and it was good to see you. Hobo with a shotgun. Won't stick around long, but wanted to stop in and say I love your channel. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you know, welcome. Happy to have you here. All right, so we built. Let's see if I broke anything. Probably did with all that ambient color removal stuff. Yeah, I saw an error up here. What was that? What was that? Oh, okay. We probably have an out variable that's being referenced somewhere. Let's see. This is in terrain. Wait. What shader is this? Does this actually tell me? Probably not. Output location 7, component 3 is not an input declared by... okay. Looks like a lot of our shaders are actually doing this. All right, so I'm not even going to try and run this any further. It's not going to work. So let's try and figure out what that might be. So all we did here was remove ambient color. Do we have anything named ambient, I wonder? We do. Okay, this is new stuff, though. Oh, but there's one that we don't need. We don't need that. So basically it's these input variables that seem to be the problem. That's what I get for not naming them the same thing. This shouldn't take long to get rid of all these. Okay, so those make sense there. Okay, so this is the material shader, which initially in DT, okay. So we have this ambient property here, which is no good. In DTO. So basically wherever that's used. I'm just going to hard code it to something. So like vec3 0.5 and vec4 0.5 0.5. Okay. Material shader. So I think all these ones are valid. Mesh loader, ambient color. Okay, I don't think those don't need to change. That doesn't need to change. And scene path. Okay, so that doesn't need to change either. So I think that should probably do it. Would you like to spread the word of VS Code? No, I would like to spread the word of NeoVim. It's better. Okay, so let's try and run this now. Okay. Did I foobar some syntax? Wrong operand types. Material shader, line 93. So this is a okay. Was this supposed to be a vector? Diffuse color. That is a vector 4. So maybe this needs to be a vector 4. Probably the same thing I had to do further down. Also missed that. Okay. I should be able to just run this. I don't need to rebuild. There we go. I don't think I saw any errors up here. We do have a warning though. So this is standard UI shader. Why is it trying to compile that twice? I need to look into that. But all right. Let's load this up and see what we get. Oh, neat. My terrain didn't load. So that's pretty cool. Why didn't that load? Something's not right. But if we look at our lighting for the models, they look a heck of a lot better lit, right? Just based off the fact that we're using this guy, right, as our sort of our lighting model, right? It looks a lot better. It looks a lot more realistic given the environment, right? So that's definitely an improvement for sure. All right. In fact, I may have to actually tone that down some. Debugger, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing though, like it's gotta be because of this, I'm guessing. Actually, PBR shader, where's the... No, the terrain shader was fine. The only one that's bleating is standard UI shader. Interesting indeed. Hydrate. Thank you for the hydrate. Appreciate that. But nevertheless, the system we put in place is actually working. So that's good. The only thing that I can think of with the terrain shader is that maybe it's an alignment issue of these guys somehow or something. Might be a data alignment issue. Right? Because I think the only thing that we actually changed in here is the removal of that ambient color. And then this. We removed it from the out as well on the vertex shader. So that should be fine. Oh, wait a minute. The shader config. Nope, we got rid of it there too. Oh. Nope, properties is down here. That's fine. This is a global uniform, so it should have removed just fine. Let's see. I love that the gist of an article on MSDN about improving performance on a Windows app SDK programs is write better code. Gee, who'da thunk? I don't use any of these editors. I'm used to JetBrains IDEs because of a few years they were the only ones to have a proper IDE on all platforms, and habits are hard to overturn. That's fair. Definitely fair. NeoVim isn't without its issues, for sure. I feel like there's issues with all of them, right? At some point in the future, I'm thinking of buying Sea Lion. Yeah, I've heard that's a good one too. I've never used it. But yeah, supposedly that one's really good. Isn't that a subscription though? You gotta use what makes you happy. Yeah, exactly. The heck? All right, let's crank up render doc. Let's see why this dingus terrain isn't loading or rendering. Maybe it is loading and just not rendering. There's the draw right there. So it is being drawn, but wait, no inputs? What? The mesh is there. Model matrix looks fine. Projection matrix. Doesn't look weird to me, neither does the view matrix. View position seems correct. Mode is 0, directional light. All this looks fine. Yeah, I don't see any issues with this, with the data that's there. No problems detected. Even the individual point lights are correct. Projection doesn't look fine. What do you mean it's all zeros? First row is all zeros? It's not all zeros. Do you mean the view matrix maybe? No, not even the view matrix. E negative 45, is that... Why would that be foobar though? I hadn't touched that. And why would it only be true for terrains? Let me look at this. Oh, right. It's not going to show. Yeah, but if that was foobar, none of this stuff would render correctly, right? Because I don't set that every single time. Like, all these draw commands happen afterwards. Like, and these things are drawing as they should. Right? It's just this one that's not drawing. I mean, none of this makes sense as to why that wouldn't be. Unless maybe somehow my frustum calling is like caused. Well, no, because if it was being called, it wouldn't be drawn. This is interesting to me, though. There's no inputs. So, like, what? What am I missing? It's going to be something stupid, I'm sure. This feels like the kind of thing that happens when you have an alignment issue. So literally that's the only difference, right? Do we need to do... Do we need to do something stupid like... like that? Oh, this is going to be in the vertex shader. Terrain. Vertex shader. Right, do I need to do... Yeah, it feels like an alignment issue for sure. Already exists on the shader. Oh, does it really? Yep, it does. Mm-mm. What if I just... do that, right? And then over here... Still didn't work. What am I missing? I love when I break stuff right at the end of the stream. It's always the best. And I don't think we got... I didn't see any errors in here either. It's loading all this. It's definitely loading everything. Definitely not trash can. Accidental cliffhanger. Yeah, exactly. I suppose I could roll back all the changes for the ambient stuff, because that's what really seems to have done it. And I'll just do that at a different point. I think that's what I'm going to do. As annoying as that is. Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to do. That really should be a separate change anyway. All right, this one's not going to be quite that simple. Is there any way to just do it on this one line? I don't think so. All right, so I need that change. And then I need that. Right. Let me just find apply global. Here we go. Change that back. Oh, it's got to have all these too. Well, I guess I don't really have to set it on that, but whatever. Unfortunately, it's not just a flat undo for this one. All right. Need that. That one, and need this one. We got ads. Hope with the shotgun heading out. Good luck with the rest of the stream. All right. Thanks, man. See ya. See you later. We are just about done here for the night, actually. Put this one back. Okay. All right, so we should be good on that. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing currently, but I'm just undoing the changes that I made for the ambient color. Just because that's going to be the quickest way to get this back to a working state, right? Scene pass C is the only one that I have to do. All right. I feel like I'm blessed because I don't like coffee. Oh, that's rough. I'd probably be addicted to it. Yeah, that's fair enough. I feel like I am sometimes, for sure. Okay, this one. Okay, just build real quick. What did I miss? Scene pass. Too few arguments in function call. Is that this one? Did I miss? I did. All right, cool. So we built. Let's run. And hey, Arturian's back. Cool. So, yeah, obviously there's some sort of data alignment issue there, but you gotta go. It's past 1 a.m. there, and you got to sleep. Yeah, I am actually done for the night as well. This is going to mark the end of the stream for me tonight. We've implemented the next step of our PBR, right? Oh, I didn't pull off the ad screen, really? Thank you for that. Forgot that. I wasn't really doing anything important anyways. I was just reverting code. So, yeah, here's the terrain is loading again, right? So, it's looking pretty good now. It's looking a lot better, right? What we're really missing is shadow maps, right? But, yeah. This is kind of where we're going to leave off this time, right? So, yeah, with that, I think that is going to do it for the stream tonight. I'm just going to... I am actually going to raid Ferret Software again, because I'm super tired and I need to go to bed, and I can't really hang around, unfortunately, tonight to chat on stream. So, for those of you who don't know, Ferret Software is a channel that is a ferret rescue, and all the ad revenue from just people watching the stream and leaving it up running is enough to pay for the medical expenses and food and all the care for, I believe, 20 ferrets now. And it's a really good cause. I really like supporting it. So that's the channel I'm going to raid. So for those of you on YouTube, obviously I can't raid you guys over there, but you know, definitely I would say check out Ferret Software. They are, let me get a link real quick. They are twitch.tv/Ferret Software. So I'll drop a link here in YouTube chat. for you guys over there as well. I highly recommend that you guys just leave that up just to support the cause, right? Anyways, that's going to do it. So, yeah, I will see you guys next time. So, peace.